So this is episode 5 of Oluswole, the podcast on the budget. I'm excited to welcome our guest, a young business mogul, hooper, and West Coaster.
Yes,
Chunda,
sir.
what's
Yes,
good?
sir. Doing well, Timmy. Nice to see you today. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a little bit, bro. It's been a little bit of time, but
Yeah, it's been a minute. I've been in the lab, you know,
sir,
but
always staying busy. That's what we love to see.
of course. Um, I want to give I want to provide some context as to how we met. It's not much though. We're both freshmen at both freshmen at Penn, so we were both in a pre-orientation program before the school year started, and then we
Yeah,
just kind of met each other through that. Yeah, shout out to Step.
shout out to
That's
stuff.
how we met each other, and
Yeah.
yeah, we've been cool ever since. So
Right.
I want to start off. You're from Murrieta in California, right?
Yes, Marietta. Very few people will know will know where that city is. So,
Yeah.
for those who are listening, it's like an hour north drive of San Diego, and what we call Riverside County. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's definitely that's the spot right there.
And that's SoCal, right? Southern
Mhm.
California.
Yeah, it's in Southern California.
hmm So we hear people say, West Coast is the best coast,
It's a
East is the
fact.
least. Like, what are your thoughts on the whole debate? Like,
Well, I mean, coming from a completely unbiased perspective, we're talking pure objective terms here. I just think the West Coast, best coast is just a statement of truth, honestly. I mean, you go to the West Coast, we got the best beaches. Pretty sure anyone will say that. We got the best weather. Pretty sure anyone will say that. People in the East will say, but seasons though. And I'm like, but sunshine and beaches and that constant 70 degrees. Like the fact that it doesn't drop below 60 on a like in the day is just like that's unbeatable. Where are you getting that from? You got to go to another continent. This is the only place you can get it in North America, bro. So obviously West Coast, Best Coast, and plus we got the variety too. Got SoCal's different vibe, NorCal different vibe. You want green, Oregon, and you even got like a little mix of the both in Seattle. So I mean, it's just a little bit of everything.
yeah, I think I agree with you because even though I was born on the East Coast and I grew up in Texas, I would still say West Coast is the best coast just simply because like it's just the West Coast culture and the vibe and the music as well. Like I
Yes,
feel
the
like
music.
yeah, I feel like you guys have everything sorted. On the East Coast, you have cold weather, which is nice, but I mean, the West Coast is just a different kind of vibe. Like
Yeah, no,
shout out
that's
to
a fact.
California.
It's the Cali is where it's at, and also it's just the chill vibes. People on the West Coast really, really more laid back. I mean, we're always known for like happy customer service type vibes we got.
Mm.
It's just like everyone, you know, you got the saying that you tell everyone from Cali when they first visit New York that it's just like it's just different out there. People just ain't as relaxing as easy going, and that's true. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the East Coast. I got family on the East Coast. My family out in North Carolina, DC, Maryland, that area. So I mess with the East Coast a little bit, but like you just got to face facts here. You just got to face facts.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Spitting facts. So you said you're from Murrieta, right?
Hmm.
And how would you describe growing up in that kind of place to someone who hasn't been there?
Yeah. So let me think. Murrieta is kind of a sort of more of a suburban part of California. I think I think one misconception that a lot of people have of California is that like the city culture is kind of representative of the entire state. And I actually think the city is kind of like its own little microcosm compared to the rest of the state because the city is like, usually like really liberal leaning, really industrious, very very diverse, and that's true when it comes to like a lot of the major cities in Cali. But I feel like a lot of people don't really realize that once you go out of the cities into like the suburbs and Central California, it's just like all farmland. That's like it's actually a lot more homogenous. It's less liberal leaning. You actually have a lot of red districts in between each of the areas. So it's like it's a different vibe when you go out. So in Murrieta, it was more like a quiet, like uh, suburban area. But like it's not necessarily like everyone, but you know a decent amount of people. It's like 100,000 strong, so it's not too crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, interesting that you say that because, like you said, when people think of California, they think of just one blue state. Everyone thinks the same way. everyone dresses the same, everyone acts the same. So it's interesting to hear how Marietta kind of distinguishes itself from the rest of the state in that kind of way. Is there, given that, like you said, there are not a lot of people out there, is there something about Marietta that you think is kind of slept on that you want to bring to light a little bit?
He slept on. See, the thing is, I'm not a big Marietta proponent.
Okay.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the city. I enjoyed where I initially first lived before I moved to Marietta.
Where was
Um,
that?
more. So I used to live in Ventura County, which is about an hour north of LA. It's about 3 hours north of where I currently live back in Cali. And I used to live in a specific area called Port Hueneme, and it was basically like on the coast, like that, like on the beachfront. And so I could basically like walk to the beach every morning. It was like super nice, and that was like the ideal place to live. Like one day, like my one of my goals in life has always been to like get back to like living on the beach someday.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a vibe. Like just being, especially with that kind of weather, like being on those kind of beaches, sounds like a movie.
There's nothing better, nothing better.
Yeah. I want to transition to hoops. So we kind of brought it up in the intro, but
Sir.
I'm not entirely sure, but were you on the junior varsity team for basketball all 4 years or just for
Oh
3?
no. So I dropped after I dropped playing after my junior year because I wanted to focus on my academics, and also because I was averaging like 4 hours of sleep a night, like playing while like stacking APs. So it's just kind of difficult to really like perform at a high level. So I played for 3 years, and then ended up dropping afterward. But I still play recreationally now. It was a good time. Definitely, I still got my love for the game. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, I follow hoops, but I never played any kind of sport at a high level. So I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you, like, what got you into playing basketball?
Yeah, so you know, playing basketball, it was something that kind of ran in the family. Like my grandfather played basketball, my father did. And then so like kind of growing up, there's always like hoop around the house. You know, whenever you go to the park, like you always came with the basketball in hand, you were dribbling down the sidewalk to get there, and then
Mm.
you know, you'd be shooting around, playing against like I'd be playing against my grandfather, playing against my father. Uh, you know, it was just kind of like something that was always around me. And then of course, like me growing up being a pretty big kid, I was always kind of tall growing up. That it just really fit the fact that I could basically play ball, and then it was around me. So when I got the chance to do it, like first in middle school, back in seventh grade, I was just like, you know, this is the perfect place. It's the perfect sport, and I just kind of ended up fitting for me.
Nice. Which position did you play? Point,
So
shooting?
like when I was younger, like in middle school, I used to play center because just I was like so big
The
at the
tallest
time.
kid?
Yeah, I was always the tallest kid. But now, like in high school, I played like a small forward type of position, so usually like slasher type, in and out type vibes. That was really where it was at.
Dope, yeah. All around game, huh?
Hey, bro, you gotta get a little taste of everything. A little taste of everything. Oh, have you been following March Madness at all, my man?
Nah, not really. I don't really follow college basketball. I just follow the biggest names, like Cade,
Okay.
like the biggest draft names. So like Cade Cunningham, you know, who is it? That kid from Gonzaga, Jalen Suggs,
Oh
like
yeah,
those
so
guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now I'm
yeah,
telling you, you should keep an eye open. I mean, any of the viewers who've been listening, I mean, y'all know how crazy it's been going recently. A lot of upsets. We got a lot of unexpected things happening. It's pretty exciting. If you want to get into college basketball, I say this is the time because this tournament is gonna shaping up to be something that's gonna be pretty crazy.
I heard that Ohio State got knocked out, and that was pretty surprising because they had a
Yeah,
strong
so they
roster.
got knocked out by oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the team's name. Um, I'm forgetting, but they were a 15 seed, and Ohio State was a second seed in the conference, so they ended up getting knocked out by them. And then just recently, I know that it's when Christian School ended up knocking out another like three seed. Uh,
Loyola.
No. Loyola was the 9 seed that knocked out Illinois, who's a 1 seed. So that was crazy. I was actually watching that game when it was happening like right before this, because that game happened like a couple hours ago before we start filming this. And bro, watching Loyola play, like they're a solid, really well coached team. I mean, we knew that from back in the day when they were like a Cinderella story, but just watching it now, like you really see like how much time and effort the coaches have put in, and really how clean they've been able to run their offense. It's been really impressive.
Hmm. Got Sister Jean in the cut supporting.
Yes, sir. Hey,
Yeah,
she
yeah,
knows. She knows.
yeah. That's their
Yeah,
good luck charm.
that is. That is. I know. I can't wait to see them play in the Elite Eight. I hope that they make it that far, because I think they'll have a really good matchup up then.
It's crazy because none of the powerhouses or the traditional powerhouses, they didn't really make it to the tournament. Like Duke didn't make it, Kentucky didn't make it. It's kind of
Yeah,
surprising.
and UNC got knocked out first round, unfortunately. That's very sad. I'm a big UNC fan.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, Chapel Hill, I love that place. I first like got into like just the team back in like 2016, because I started paying attention on like college ball more back in 2016. And so watching them play like during that peak when they were like really really good was super entertaining. And then eventually I ended up like being interested in the school and whatnot. So I ended up visiting like while I was applying to colleges. I had a program actually fly me out for that, so that was like super dope to like go and visit the campus and see what it was like. So yeah, I got a personal connection to UNC. I think it's really dope.
Yeah, it's a dope school, and they produced a lot of top talent in the last few years. Like Cole Anthony played there. Obviously, Michael Jordan went there. That was years ago, though.
Yeah.
Was Who else was there?
I mean, even like little low key talents. You got like bench players like Jalen Brunson, who like still have like
Oh,
active
okay.
roles in the NBA. Like, it's they're definitely like a great program. And I
Yeah,
think, yeah,
I
even
think
though
Danny
they're like,
Green.
oh yeah, I think Dan Green went there as well. But
Yeah.
even though they've been like all right this year, I definitely think they're gonna bounce back.
Hmm.
There's no worries there.
You a Lakers fan? Growing up in SoCal, is that who you support?
Yes, we're a Lakers. I'm definitely a Lakers fan. Clippers fans, we don't acknowledge them because they shouldn't exist. If you're a Clippers fan, you're either misguided from birth or just bandwagoning. So,
Uh,
yes, Lakers fan all the way, diehard. People bag on the Lakers, but they forgot we were bad for almost like a straight decade.
yeah, yeah.
So I say it's about time again we get our due. So I've been real happy with what's been happening lately with them.
And obviously, last season was a great season for them because they won the chip. But
Yeah.
before the season started, like as soon as they got AD, I was like, it's a wrap. Because once you give LeBron
Yep.
James someone like AD, they're definitely gonna win the championship.
It's
Even
over.
though the media wanted the Clippers to win for some reason, but like it's pretty obvious the Lakers are gonna win, and they dominated. Do you think they're gonna be able to repeat, especially with the rise of the Brooklyn Nets this season, or are you
Yeah.
kind of scared?
So I'm honestly not too worried. I think one thing that LeBron does. I'm a pretty big LeBron fan as well, so I've followed him ever since like the Heat, back in like was that 12.
Yeah,
So watching that, he knows how to operate the offense where it's not simply running through him. And I think what you're looking at when you look at the Nets is like you need really stand out games. Like we're talking dominating games from like each of the like star players that they have, because the way they run their offense is mostly like ISO based. You do see some sharing of the ball, but it's not really as like prolific as you do see in like a LeBron AD style, where they're constantly on the pick and roll. They're trying to hit the open man on this corner. Like you always see like KCP and what used to be Daddy Green. You have them post up in the corners as shooters, and you like use AD, draw the paint in, try to get the open look, like that kind of play. Not really as much of a focus when it comes to like Kyrie and KD and Harden in them. So I think you really depend on these like crazy standout games to match like the scoring output of AD and LeBron. So I think the Lakers honestly really have a good chance against them, even though on paper their team might look a little stacked.
Yeah, I agree with you because I still have the Lakers winning the chip this year because I just feel like they're the strongest team out there, and their defense. I feel like the defensive side of the ball is
Defense
kind of
too.
neglected
Yes.
because
Yeah, no,
looking,
that's
yeah, because the Nets can score, but I mean, they also concede hella points. So I don't know if Blake signing Blake Griffin necessarily helps that issue at all. But yeah, I have if assuming Anthony Davis comes back healthy, then I have the Lakers winning. If he doesn't, then I think it could be the Sixers as well. The Sixers could come out of the East. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true. The Sixers definitely do have a good shot. They
Yeah.
built their team really well in the offseason, especially picking up Green. I know it's like super basketball head talk that we're doing right now, but yeah, picking up Green. Seth Curry is a great pickup for them.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal bench player, like phenomenal. I think he's really underrated, honestly. I mean, he's in the prime of his game right now. So I really think that they do have a structured team. I think they could give the Nets a run for their money for sure. And actually, I would low key give the 76ers more of a shot of being able to win against the Lakers than the Nets, in my opinion. Because when you look at the Nets, you have the one question is who's stopping AD, and the answer is nobody. Like you really don't have anyone on that team that can match toe to toe. But you run um, you run AD versus Simmons and Embiid, and then not only does he have to like play against Embiid in terms of like running through his defense, but you have to also match like the scoring output of Embiid too, because he's been putting up big numbers this season. So I think that's definitely something we gotta look out for.
Yeah, I agree. The Sixers are definitely looking dangerous. Um, I'm sure some people weren't happy with all the basketball talk, but
I know they're like, what is this?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's a good addition to the pod. We've never had anyone who really follows hoops on the pod yet. So
Sure, spice it up a little.
exactly, yeah, change the game.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
I wanted to transition to business ventures because I know you're in a dual degree program. For
Yeah,
those of you that don't know, it's basically when because Penn has 4 undergraduate schools. If you're in a dual degree program, it means that you're a student at you get 2 degrees from 2 of Penn schools,
yeah,
and you graduate in 4 years usually. So
yeah,
you're in the one called LSM, which is Life Sciences and Management. So
yeah,
that's sciences and business, right?
yeah. Life sciences can be anything ranging from bio, neuro, chem, biophysics, uh, biochem, any like life sciences oriented kind of field, and then on the business end, really whatever the Wharton School offers.
Yeah. So just asking about your business ventures, I think recently you started this thing called this project called Album 19, where it's kind of like a play on COVID-19, even the way it's formatted, like album
Oh
hyphen
yeah, album dash
19.
19. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, no, album 19. So this was a project that was kind of initially it was made out of like this kind of competition. It was kind of it was more of like a project necessity where I was basically given a challenge to turn $50 into $250, and I was like, all right, like how am I going to do this? Like what like I'm trying to create something original here. How am I going to do this? And so I was talking with a friend of mine, and then he reminded me, we were talking about this old project back in, I believe it was like the late 90s, early 2000s, which was the $1 million pixel page. I don't know if you've heard of this before, Timmy.
nah,
Okay,
no,
yeah, so I'll explain it, especially to anyone who's listening. So the $1 million pixel page was essentially a web page that had space on it, like a million pixels worth. And what people would do is they would pay $1 per pixel to kind of post whatever images or like ads or whatever they wanted onto it. And so to basically like to fill up the real estate because there's like the scarcity of only a million pixels, people would buy it in, and then the users or like the host of the site ended up making like $1 million from it because all the pixels were bought up. And so this was like early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s that this happened. And so we were talking about it and we were like, what if we could do something like that now, but for images, so not simply just regular pixels, kind of like upscaling it to like what the modern internet is now. Um, and so we were like, okay, that's a cool idea. I think like that was a good start for us. So then I had like this kind of team of people I was working with for like the little challenge that we made. And one of them came up with shout out Connie for this idea, but one of them came up with the idea that we should create like kind of a virtual time capsule that kind of memorializes kind of the experiences, the mindset, and just kind of the vibe of the past year. So it's kind of sticking with the theme of COVID-19 and how everything is kind of transformed into a virtual setting. We kind of want to create a virtual memorial to the just experiences people have had in the past year. And so with that, we created the project, which we call Capsule 19. The project's called Capsule 19, but the actual page itself is called Album 19. So anyone can look at this if you go to www.album19.com, album being ALBUM, and then 19 being the numbers 19.com. You can see it there. We still have some empty space now. Actually, I've been meaning to fill it up. I have some friends that brought in some submissions that I have to fill in. But yeah, we basically have like little slots, and then for every slot, it's simply $1. We're limited at 500 slots, and our goal is basically to fill it up to kind of create this kind of just what we call like an album, like a photo album of this experience that we've all shared together. And some people are really creative with it. Like they'll buy like they'll buy like 2x2s or like 3x3s. Like you yourself buy like a 3x3 slot to just kind of post this podcast that you've been working on over this COVID-19 experience. So I think like it really allows people to be creative. Some people want to post funny things. Some people want to post memories with friends and family. Like it's a little bit of everything. I think it really like creates a picture of what life was like over the past year for some of us.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool idea when I first heard about it. Just a kind of a way of, obviously the pandemic was tough, but at least it's kind of a way to memorialize the highlights from it.
Yeah.
Will you post will it be like a collage that you post on the website? Like, is that what the final product is gonna look like?
Yeah, so it'll be live update on the website. And then depending on demand, we might be thinking of expanding into maybe doing like a kind of really embodying the album 19 like kind of idea and creating like um, making like an album art kind of vibe. And then we could maybe make t-shirts from it or whatever. Um, but we kind of want to leave that up to the people who participate in the thing, and we just kind of want to ask them like what are they looking for from this, and what do they want us to do, because really that's the end goal. We just want to create it for people to post whatever they wanted. So from there is probably where we're going to go.
Sounds pretty cool. It sounds like a really interesting, project. That's why I decided to, pitch in a little bit because
Yes,
it
much
sounded like
appreciated.
no problem. Yeah, it sounded like it was worthwhile. Have you always been interested in entrepreneurship, like when you were a kid, or is this something more recent that you started getting involved in?
Yeah, so it was a thing that I recently got, or I initially got like exposed to when I was a child. I was say I was probably like 10, 11 years old. I was a big reader back then. And my dad was always into business, but I think the drive initially started when I read the book, which is a book a lot of young entrepreneurs are really exposed to, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad. For any of you guys who don't know, Rich Dad Poor Dad's a book written by Robert Kiyosaki, who himself is a self-made millionaire, and kind of details his life and experience as a juxtaposition between his own father, who was kind of a working class man who really stuck to like the general like I'd say like structure of like the way people look at occupations and look at living their lives. Had a 9 to 5, retired, et cetera, et cetera. And then with what he calls his quote unquote rich dad, which was the dad of his best friend, um, who wasn't really a proponent of like the 9 to 5 employee job, and so he wanted to like set out and create his own company, and he was successful with it, and he was able to become wealthy as a result. And so he kind of like took that juxtaposition and wrote about like the kind of life lessons he learned from both ends, and kind of the values he learns from both ends of the side and how that helped him become like a successful entrepreneur himself. And so, reading that when I was like 10 years old, I realized like, oh, this is the sense of freedom and kind of like self, you like determination that you could get from entrepreneurship. Like that was the way I wanted to go because I was never a big fan of people telling me what to do as a kid. And so I kind of had that stick with me a little bit as I grew older. And then my dad too, he also was someone who was really into entrepreneurship. So kind of that both like that intrinsic drive and being able to see it work successfully was like something I was like, oh, this is something I could do as well.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I kind of agree. Like for me, the reason why I want to get into business is part of what is similar to what you said. Like just being able to have control over the decisions that you make instead of just being. Because I was never really a big fan of like you just sitting in a classroom and being told what to do.
Yeah.
But having the freedom and the reins to just kind of do what you want and make decisions how you want to make them and make failures and successes due to your own decisions. I mean, like that's something I was always interested in. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Like your origin story. I didn't know all that, so it's nice to hear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I want to transition to the podcast space. So yeah, apparently you're a member of the Penn Undergraduate Biotech Society, and y'all have a podcast, which I didn't know about.
That we do. That we do. You
Exactly.
did your research, my friend. Yes, you
I
did.
did. I did. Yeah.
Yes, we do have a podcast out. We recently we're talking. Now we're going to get into like biohead talk. But we were talking about
Yes.
the aducanumab fiasco with Biogen. So a little bit of context on what all those words mean. Aducanumab is a neurodegenerative disease therapeutic specifically for Alzheimer's disease that Biogen, which is a biotech company, was attempting to develop. And there was a lot of issues that came with FDA approval, like near the end stages of the trials that they were doing, the medical trials that were doing, and it ended up like kind of blowing up in their face. Um, and initially held up really a lot of promise. So we saw a lot of like fluctuation with their market valuations. We saw a lot of debates on whether or not like their target pathways were even like viable, and just kind of like how we really ended up at this spot, because usually you find things out a lot earlier when it comes to things that go wrong um, in like um, medical trials. So it was just an interesting thing that we kind of dove into. But yeah, I encourage anyone who's like interested in the biotech space, or even if you want to know a little bit more, to just go and listen to the podcast. Penn Undergraduate Biotech Society, Pubs, PUBS. I'm sure if you look that up, you can definitely find that one out. But yeah, podcast that's not where podcasting actually started for me. Actually, I've been into the podcasting space for a minute now. Actually,
Okay.
yeah.
So how did you get into? So what kind of podcast were you running before Pubs? Like what was that about?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start when I first got into like listening to them. So
Okay.
the first podcast I listened to is actually, it's a really weird one. It's called Welcome to Night Vale, and I
Welcome to
think
what?
that Welcome to Night Vale.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a podcast. I think I was just like scrolling around like Spotify or something. No, no, not Spotify, because they didn't have podcasts back then. I don't know exactly where I was scrolling around, but I was just scrolling around the internet. I saw like a podcast option on like a streaming platform when I think I was like 13 at the time. And I found this one podcast was like Welcome to Night Vale, and it's basically a fictional podcast held in this fictional city of Night Vale, where like really interesting, like weird things happen, and it kind of follows like this kind of fragmented but kind of storyline-ish setting. And it was just something that I could use to kind of like detach from, the real world, and just kind of like get lost in this like imaginative like space. And so it was really cool. And I kind of started my love for podcasts. So then, come my sophomore year of high school, we had like a project where we had to create like a media based project for detailing. I believe it was like some kind of issue we saw in in society. And so I was already into podcasts. I was like, why not make one? So I used, I don't know if you use Audacity to do your edits. You do?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So
Yes, sir.
I booted up Audacity. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
what's the recording sitch? So I booted up Audacity. I took interviews from like oh yeah, my subject was basically it's based on rising college prices um, in America, and so I booted up. I talked to like a couple professors. I talked to a couple students and with their experiences, and just kind of created something from that. And then from then on, like I've always been really into it since then.
Yeah. I think for me, I think it started when I was like 15 or 16. That's when I started
Mhm.
listening to podcasts. And I don't know if you know Cody Ko and Noel Miller.
Oh, I've heard of Cody Co before. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just stumbled across one of his videos
Hmm.
on YouTube, and I
Yeah.
thought it was kind of funny. And Noel Miller is this guy, is his good friend, and they collaborate and stuff. So he also makes content. I watched a video of them two together. And I thought they were kind of funny, and then I realized I had a podcast. So then I just started listening to that,
Hmm.
and uh, I think they have like 180 episodes. But at that time, they only had like maybe 10 or 15. So I just
Yeah.
listened to a few, and I was, listening to them weekly. And over around Christmas time, so 2020, I was thinking I hadn't really been listening to their podcast because,
Hmm.
after a while you start to, just your interests start to change. So I kind of stopped listening to their podcast, but I was thinking having a podcast would be pretty cool. And then I was thinking,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I was just thinking, why can't I start one of my own? So then I just, you know, got the mic. I already had the headphones. I already had Audacity. So
Hmm.
I was already equipped and I just started podcasting. And we're here now.
Okay. And there it is. What
Exactly.
was the inspiration behind like Oluswole, like as a podcast, like the general like format, the vibes you brought here? Like what was kind of the inspiration behind this?
Do you mean like behind the whole podcast project?
Yeah, behind like this specific podcast project and like how you operate this, like what brought you to this and like why now? Like why did you decide like, oh, like right now is the time?
I mean, what brought me to it is just through listening to other podcasts and listen. It was with the example I gave earlier and listening to other podcasts. I just felt like there was. I just felt like having a conversation with someone and getting to know what they're thinking about is pretty interesting.
No,
And I was like, it's interesting. It's interesting for me to listen to these conversations. So I was thinking, like, why not have these conversations as well as listen to them at the same time? And I think podcasting gives you the opportunity to do that. And why did I start it now? Because I thought it was either now or never, because I've been thinking about this around Christmas time, like I said, but I only started putting traction on it in maybe February
hmm.
because it was just kind of in my mind, like, oh, this would be cool to start, but I wasn't actually, you know, putting any work in to turn those ideas in my head into actual results. And
Yeah.
I thought it would be kind of hard to start up because, like, I was thinking if I don't start it now in college, it would be kind of hard to start it after college because, like, once
Hmm.
you're in the workforce, all your friends are like dispersed across the world,
Yeah.
and it would be hard to find a reliable audience as well because you'll be further removed from seeing those friends that you made in high school or in those friends that you made in college. So it made sense for me to just start doing it now, and especially at a school like Penn, which has I know we people like to point at the pre-professional emphasis, but it's like
Yeah.
the number one phrase used to describe Penn. But it's kind of true, and people here are pretty entrepreneurial, regardless of which school they're in, and they're willing to support your project. They're willing to come on these kind of podcasts like you are now, and say
Of
some
course.
stuff. So yeah, I knew this is the best environment for me to start it, and I knew that
Mhm.
if I waited any longer, I wouldn't be able to really do it as well as I could have.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'm glad you did, bro. I love the chance to be able to like hop on things like this, help support any way I can. It's great. I love seeing it.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate you being here, man.
of course, bro.
Yeah.
Is there any idea that you have for like the future direction, or you just kind of like moving with the flow. Like, yeah, any topic, or you like any like interesting formats you want to try? Like, what's
Yeah, that's a good question. Topic wise, it just kind of depends on who I have on. So
Mhm.
there's no like this isn't. I think one of the challenges was because when your podcast is being distributed to Apple Podcasts and
Mhm.
podcasting platforms in general, but particularly Apple Podcasts, like you have to put it in a certain category. I think
Oh yeah, yeah,
Spotify as well.
yeah.
And it's not as if this is a sports podcast. Well, maybe this episode was a sports episode, but it's not as if this is a sports podcast or like a I don't know fashion podcast. The tone of the podcast just depends on the theme of the podcast is dependent on who I have on because
Mhm.
I'm really learning about the person that I have on and I'm bringing on a different person each time. So there's
Yeah.
no theme. It's pretty versatile and new formats. I've been thinking about it kind of because eventually I'm gonna transition to doing in-person interviews.
Yeah.
The reason why we're doing this online is just because of like COVID protocols. Like I could go and see you, but
Yeah.
it's
I
just
mean, we have seen each other in person before.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's just COVID regulations and all that. But yeah, definitely thinking about how I want to structure my podcast when we're in person in terms of like where I want to film, what kind of extra equipment I would need to go get to make my podcast better. Because I feel like now since I started a podcast, before I was just a fan, but now I'm a fan of podcasts. I'm also a student. So when I'm watching a podcast, I'm paying
Yeah,
attention to
you're always paying
what they're
attention to the
doing.
details, like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
set you're doing. Yeah, yeah. No, 100%.
exactly. Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
If you ever need any help when it comes to like setups or anything, I actually have because I was like we had a little like film setup back in where I live, and I created like this little podcasting little setup. So if you
Wow.
ever want to transform, because for the viewers who don't know, me and Timmy, as well as a couple other of our friends, we're planning on living together in the same suite next year at school. And so, I think we can transform your dorm room into a little studio, man. Definitely see it happening.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. That would definitely be a movie for sure.
Yeah,
And yeah,
we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. We want to see you succeed, bro.
yeah, thanks, man. Love to see it. Speaking on the topic of podcasting, like what was something that was hard for you, like a challenge for you when you were going into that podcasting space? Because it's not conceptually difficult to start a podcast, but there are things you need to learn how to do. And I just want to learn
Yeah.
about your own challenges that you faced.
Yeah, so my podcast, similar to you, I was really interested in like the conversational space. When it came to me, I think a lot of I mean, you always have equipment issues. I was trying to work with like a little bit more like technical equipment. Like I set up mics and stuff. And I was doing this in person pre COVID. So you would have your visuals, your lighting, your cam, your mics, your uh, and then you have to have this all like out of shot, but like still like, on set, and you'd have to like set that up. So that was always like you always had little like difficulties with that. Um, but I'd say the biggest thing would probably just be um, I'd say it would probably be mostly like the kind of capturing the essence of like what am I doing here? Like what is the goal of what am I trying to like convey here in the podcast? Because you can do the conversational thing and that's always dope. But I feel like there should be like a core aspect of what you're trying to bring to the people that are listening, and kind of identifying that and bringing that forward when you're not really sure yourself and you're just kind of like finding your own way is something that takes a little bit of time to get to used to, and is honestly why I haven't like started a podcast that has like consistent punctual traction or anything like that. It's kind of because I still haven't been able to yet to identify that, and also I haven't been able to set aside enough time to really work on that. So hopefully one day I'll be able to. But I definitely say that would probably be the biggest hurdle so far.
Okay, it's a pretty insightful hurdle. Yeah, I think for me, it was probably just. I think the main thing was just learning about the logistical side
Hmm.
because like you said, the conversational aspect is what I was looking forward to.
Hmm.
and that's what I already knew how to do through watching podcasts and through conversing with people. But just learning how to, because I made a lot of mistakes with the first episode
Hmm.
and at the beginning because I didn't
How
know
so? Like, what were
how
some of the mistakes? I said, how so? Like, what were some of the
how,
mistakes?
how so like it was just like I think my headphones were plugged into the wrong device, so I
Hmm.
was getting some of the output was coming to my microphone, which is meant to be the input. So then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had to, and it was worsened by the fact that you're doing this over Zoom, so there's kind
Yeah.
of a lag between when the person is actually speaking and when the lag is reaching the microphone when it's not supposed to be doing that.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of had to edit that out, and that took me some time. Uh, yeah, some rookie mistakes I was making, but I think I learned a lot through experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, rookie mistakes for reasons because we got to learn from it to become better. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that's no problem. Trust me, right? The sound setups and all that. It, even when you do podcasting for a while, it'll still be things you mess up and you'll realize, oh, I just recorded 30 minutes of silence
Yeah,
because my battery's died or I haven't had this plugged into the wrong port or I just like missed something. So
yeah,
it is what
yeah.
it is.
But you grow through it, so we move.
Yes, sir. That we do. That we do. Have you ever thought of like bringing? I mean, probably not in Zoom because that's like kind of weird, like speaking dynamic. But bringing in like groups of people or like two or three people to speak at one time.
Yeah, I was thinking. I haven't done it yet, but yeah, I was definitely thinking about bringing on maybe two people at a time. That was something I was thinking about prior to the launch, just to spice things up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want it to always be a one on one. You want to switch things up for the viewer, see if they like that, listen to the
Yeah.
people, see what they want. So, yeah, that's definitely something I want to do. Yeah,
Oh, so I think an interesting idea would be like once we're all living together, do like like pairing off of some of the people that we live with.
yeah, yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be
for
really
sure. Yeah,
interesting to go for.
yeah. I was thinking about that kind of scenario because I was like, I'll actually be living with people next year, so maybe I could do something with them, and
Yeah,
that would be nice. Yeah,
that'd be really interesting. Yeah, I think you could even make it topical, man. Do like a whole uh like a panel type vibe where we just speak between ourselves and like the viewers kind of listening.
that'd be a vibe. Yeah,
Like we're
I'll
all like
probably.
game planning this right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. We're out here skimming right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All these,
like,
hey, if any of the viewers got ideas, what do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to see? Shoot it to the man.
of
Make it happen.
course. Tap in, tap in. Yeah, so I want to move on to the part of the podcast called the Oluswole Bowl. That's where we
Sure.
ask, yeah, we ask you some off the cuff questions that might be related, might be unrelated to the topic of discussion we were just speaking about.
Of course.
So, talked a bit about the West Coast at the beginning of the podcast. Who are your top three West Coast artists?
Top three West Coast artists. We're talking like all time.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
time. I'd say Pac number one. Obviously, that's like say less. Um, I'd say Kendrick second. I'm a really big Kendrick fan. He's probably my favorite rapper. And then I would say give me really big. I'm not the biggest NWA fan, so I'd say give me. Let's go Lamar. Give me YG. Give me YG. Or actually, no. Give me the game. I mess with the game.
okay.
Yeah.
Strong
Really.
lineup.
Yeah. So that's a solid lineup right there.
Yeah, Kendrick and Pac, very lyrical. Is that like your style of rap?
Honestly, I listen to anything and everything. My top three are the top two of my top three are Kendrick and Uzi. So those are like polar opposites, both regionally and style wise.
Yeah,
Um, so I just like to get a little bit of taste of everything. So I think Kendrick's just definitely like the best at what he does specifically, and that's just it's great to listen to.
yeah. When I do listen to a little bit of lyrical rap, but to be honest, like the kind of rap I listen to is more mainstream, more new age, like more Lil Uzi, definitely more Lil Uzi than Pac or Kendrick Lamar. Like the the melodic rappers, like that's the new wave. That's kind of
And
what
that
I've been
is the new
hopping on.
wave. Okay,
Yeah,
hit me with your top three. West Coast. Let's hear it, Timmy. From a Texas native.
from Texas native. See, I don't know a lot of. Actually, there are hella West Coast artists. I just don't know if they're from the West Coast.
Yeah, you just tell me, and I'll tell you whether or not they're from the West Coast.
Okay, number one. See, these are just my own personal favorites. I'm not saying these guys are necessarily the best at what they do, but I'd have to put Lil Mosey at number one. I just think his sound is
Yeah,
fire.
he's from I think he's from Washington, but yeah, that's West Coast, I guess.
Yeah, he's from the Seattle area. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so I feel like just his use of some people just have like he's far from a lyrical rapper at all,
Mhm.
but some people just have natural flow when they get on the mic. I just
Yeah,
feel like he just has that. Like, you can't teach it. He just has flow. His songs are catchy.
yeah, that's a fact.
Number two, number two, that's tough. Huh.
Throw it out there, bruh. Come on now.
I'm trying to think. Well, Snoop is pretty good.
Snoop.
Snoop is
Okay,
pretty good. Yeah,
that's a good one. I never really got into him much, but I do appreciate his talent.
yeah. Three, maybe Blueface. I just feel like
Bro. Yo, you gonna get dog. Old heads are gonna have your head for this one,
one
bro.
hundred, 100%,
We're
one hundred
like, this is
percent.
what's wrong with the new generation.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the problem entirely.
Blueface. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like Blueface goes up, especially where in Cali, like SoCal. Dog, like he would be performing at like birthday parties, like 30 minutes away from where I live, like
Oh
back
wow.
when like first getting into the limelight. So like, yeah, we rock with Blueface, but I don't know about top three.
Yeah, I don't know about. He's in my personal top three. I think it's not as if I'm some sort of diehard Blueface fan, but I like his. And some of his songs are kind of his songs are kind of hit or miss, but
Yeah,
the ones that hit really
hit
hit.
different, hit
Yeah,
different. That's facts.
and his lyrics are just like funny. Like I
Yeah,
laugh.
they're so goofy. Yeah, that's the great
Yeah,
thing about it. All
yeah.
right, hit me with the next one, bro. What we got next?
All right. Would you rather have your shirts always be two sizes too small or two sizes too big?
Ooh, probably two sizes too big because two sizes too small. I'm wearing a crop top because I'm a pretty tall person.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's just pretty wraps for me. And that's just not going to work in the cold, especially now out here.
exactly.
Um, so definitely two sizes too big because you can always pack on a little muscle, a little something, get a little vibe on. Because I think two sizes too big would probably be like an XL. They usually wear like mediums, my shirts. So I think I can manage wearing XL.
Yeah, I think I would probably I'd have to go two sizes too big. Um, because I mean, at least you can tuck your shirt in or like you can do something with that. You can.
True.
There are ways around that. Two
Or we can
sizes,
get back to '90s baggy everything.
exactly. Yeah. Or like if you look at '90s, early 2000s, like that was just baggy jeans,
Yeah,
baggy shirts. We could bring back a new style. Bring back an old style. Make
true.
it retro. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm not a tall person, but I mean, two sizes too small. That would be like what XS. So, I mean, that would just be that would just be weird. Like just walking
You
around.
like rip it through everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless I'm like Oluswole and like my muscles are popping out, which they're not. It would be kind of a weird thing
Hey,
to
Brett,
wear.
you got to come to the gym sometime. Make you live up to the name.
Exactly. Yeah. Have you started going to Paw Truck? It reopened, but I don't know if you
No, I
have.
still have. Well, honestly, the past 2 weeks I haven't been able to go to the gym much just because I've been really busy. Um, like it's been pretty bad. But this coming week, I think I have a little bit more free time, so I'm probably gonna start going back to. I go to Fit Gym right now,
Hmm.
just because like it's easier. I don't have to worry about the time limits as well, because Patrick's only an hour, um, so it gives me a little bit more time. But yeah, bro, I miss like when I first got here, like working out every day, doing yoga every day too. It just felt good to be back in shape. And now I'm starting to feel like a little bit, starting to get winded a little too quickly again. I'm just like, nah, we gotta get back into it.
You're doing yoga?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me and my like not my dorm mate because I don't have a dorm mate, but like my next door dorm mate, we do like yoga together after or like before after our workouts. Just stretch the muscles, keep it
Alfie?
limber. Yeah, Alfie.
Okay.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't know you guys did yoga. I thought you guys were just going to the gym. That's
Yeah,
pretty.
you do both, bro. You gotta get the flexibility, the body control, and the strength. It's the whole package, bro.
Y'all are just. I mean, you guys are what former athletes, so y'all are just built different, I guess.
I mean, that's probably where we get the itch from, though. Need to always stay active. Is we've been doing it for so long, but yeah, it's being a former athlete definitely it helps with the routine because we're kind of used to it.
Speaking of being a former athlete, like, do you think you'll be interested in doing club or intramural basketball at Penn?
I thought about it, yeah, and I really think maybe not next year because I feel like next year will be kind of a grind as well. But maybe in the years following, when I have a little bit more free time, I think I'll lax up on my my class schedules. I think I'll take a shot at it. Yeah, I'm gonna obviously stay in shape. I've been meaning to go to Patrick to like shoot shots and make sure I keep my form straight, keep my shots up. Make sure I still stay fresh on the on like how in shape I am in terms of my skill set. So like I hope to get back to it eventually. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm. Got you. Yeah, so I think that wraps up episode 5 of the Oluswole podcast. Thanks,
Sure.
Chunda. Yeah, thanks, man, for coming on the podcast. We appreciate you, coming on, showing some love to the pod.
Yeah, anytime, bro. Anytime. Anytime you want to have me over again, I'm always free and willing to do so, bro.
For sure, for sure. Oluswole is available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and if you're watching this on YouTube, our socials are linked in the description. Peace.
Sure.